Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing okay and ready for today's video. We are going to be transforming this busted up nightgown into a beautiful dress. So this belonged to my mom. The pattern is cute, but the fit was not my style. So I turned it into a milkmaid dress and here she is. Girl, now she's showing up. She's bringing the dollars to the bank. She's showing up to the cookout with presents for all the nieces and everyone loves her. So I am here for this dress. I love the milkmaid trend so much. I made a milkmaid top a month ago and I decided I have all the time in the world, so might as well make a milkmaid dress. So in case you want to look cute and fabulous in a milkmaid dress, let me show you how to make one for yourself. That way we can be twinsies. So first things first, you're going to lay out your dress and then take a dress you love the fit of. I'm using this children's dress and yeah, don't tell anyone. I just love how it fits and it really cinches in the waist. So I just traced out the shape on one side. That way I'd have a beautiful figure snatching dress. Once you're done with her, fire her, she's at the door. Now you're just going to cut out that shape. That way you have a nice and beautiful shape on one side. So I wanted this to really snatch up the waist, give the illusion that I've been working out during quarantine, even though I've been eating 5 donuts a day and 10 cups of coffee with 1 hour of sleep daily. No one needs to know that, okay? So I just wanted to look put together and this dress did exactly that for me. So I just folded it in half. That way we'd have an exact replica on the other side and no one would know you cut this with your eyes closed and you do not know what you're doing. So I cut out the other side as well, and once I had my beautiful dress shape, I'm going to draw a straight line across the top. That way I can cut out the front bit. So we're going to cut out the front bit and the back bit separately because the back bit needs to be longer. So as you can see, I'm only cutting through the top layer of the fabric, and once that was done, I had my front piece. I marked it with an F in case I forgot which was which. So in case you might forget, mark it as well. It costs you nothing. So now for the back bit, I'm extending it by 2 inches, and this is because we need it to be longer to connect to the milkmaid bit that we'll make later on. So just finesse this, make it longer. I promise you, you do not want to make this shorter, otherwise your dress will not be even. So once you've cut out your back bit as well, I made sure to straighten mine out because sometimes I cut like I'm on alcoholic drugs, so I need to just straighten things out. And once everything was nice and straight, I marked out a B for back, and now I had my 2 bits of fabric. So now going back to the top bit, I'm just cutting off the excess fabric on the sides, which just looked weird, so I got rid of them. We do not need them. They are fired. Everyone's getting fired today. And now I'm just splitting the shirt along the side seams. That way I can separate the front and the back bit. This will just make it easier to cut out our rectangles that we need for the milkmaid bit. So do whatever you need to do in case you need to lay this out on the floor, in case you need to take a shot of tequila so that you can cut this out right. I am not judging you. Today we do whatever we need to do to cope because the world is in shambles and we just need to pray for everyone. Anyway, I digress. So with this front bit, as you can see, she's looking nice. She's looking okay. She's been working out. Now I'm just cutting out the bottom, and this is a trick I was trying just to see if I'd cut in a straight line. So you go folding in your fabric and use that as a template to make sure you're cutting in a straight line. And it really helped. The only thing is it took a lot of time. So yeah, it was worth it, but it also was very time consuming. But anyway, I had my straight line and that's all that matters at the end of the day. So once you lay that out flat, as you can see, the bottom is straight, reasonably straight. So now I'm going to measure my chesticle region. It came to 6.5 inches. So measure how wide your chesticles are. And now I'm marking out 7.5 inches because I added an inch for seam allowance just to make sure no one was squeezing my boobs once this was nice and made and everything fit right. So once my 7.5 inches were marked out, it was now time to cut this in a straight line. So we're basically cutting out a rectangle that will cover our chesticle area. And as you can see, this process of folding the fabric over and cutting slow really took time. Like, I was here for a hot minute, but eventually I ended up with a pretty rectangle, so it was all worth it. So now it's time to cut out a similar rectangular piece from the back piece. That way you can have two rectangles. And for the second rectangle, I had to join two pieces, but it's okay. This will go to the back. No one will see it. So now I'm just aligning the two pieces together, making sure everyone's in check, no one's falling back on their tax payments, and everyone's listening to everyone, and we're all loving each other. So I pinned the two pieces together. That way the fabric wouldn't move around. And now I'm marking an inch from the side. And then I went up 2 inches, and this is going to make my tab bit. I also marked 2 inches at the top, and I'm just joining the 2-inch marks together. That way I can create a small tab on the side that's 1 inch wide. So this is super easy to do. You basically need this tab to be able to connect the back piece to the front piece. So make sure you include the tab. Do not forget her. She is very essential to this process. So once I cut off the excess fabric, I had a tab on that side. I took off the pin because I no longer needed to see her ever again. And I'm just folding my fabric in half. That way I can duplicate this shape on the other side. So just make sure you're maneuvering and turning this fabric around in ways you didn't know was possible to turn fabric in, and just cut off the excess fabric. And once that's done, you literally have your milkmaid bit. So I'm just opening this up, and remember, the right sides of the fabric are kissing. I pinned the side tabs together. That way the fabric wouldn't move around as I was about to do a very essential step. So now, taking a strappy romper, I'm measuring the distance between the two straps. It came to 9¼ inches, but I rounded it off to 9½ inches to make my life easier. This is essentially going to be the length of your milkmaid bit. So now I'm measuring out elastic that's 9½ inches long. I cut that out, and then I'm just going to do this again. That way I have 2 elastic bits, and they're basically going to do the gathering at the top. That way everything is nice and ruched up. So now you're going to take your bits of elastic and gather the top bits separately. I decided to do this separately, but you can just use 1 bit of elastic for both fabrics. I just found it easier to do it this way. So to attach the elastic to my fabric, I did a back stitch a bit to attach her firmly and securely to my fabric, and then I really pulled on her. That way she can gather my fabric properly. And I'm doing a zigzag stitch because we are sewing a very stretchy elastic. So make sure you're really pulling on her. Make sure you're putting her under pressure. She's about to become a ruffled diamond, and she needs to go through the process, honey. No shortcuts here. So make sure you're really tugging on her and sewing as you go. And once everything is nice and sewn, you'll have gathered your fabric, and it will be the length of your chest. So here are my 2 pieces looking fabulous. And for the straps, I decided to use the ties that came with my dress. So they were a different color, and I loved that. I think it made the dress very unique. So in case you want to use different color straps as well, you do that. So now I'm just spinning the 2 pieces of fabric together, and when it came to attaching the strap, I slid her in there, snuck her in there, and I'm making sure to only pull a bit of the strap. That way when I turn this the right way out, the strap will be securely attached. So pin her in place. That way she doesn't move about and disrespect you and your family. And continue pinning along the length of the fabric and the width of the fabric. Do whatever you need to do. Make sure everyone's in check. So for the second strap, I did the same thing. Put her between the 2 sides of the fabric and sandwiched her, made sure she was comfortable, and I pinned her down. That way when I was sewing, everything would be nice and easy. So I pinned all around my length and my width, my tab bits. I just made sure everyone was nice and pinned. That way when it came to sewing, my work would be nice and easy. So to sew, you're going to sew all along the pinned area, and this will just make sure everyone is joined together forever. And I did a continuous stitch from one side to the other. So I lifted the presser foot when I got to a corner. Instead of stopping my stitch, I just lifted the presser foot, kept the needle down, removed my pins, put the presser foot down, and continued sewing. That is such a lengthy explanation, but it's basically just turning your fabric without lifting your needle. That way you don't break the stitch and everything is nice and continuous. In case you have non-stretchy fabric, use a straight stitch, but since my fabric was stretchy, I'm using a zigzag stitch in this case. So same thing, when you get to a corner, lift your presser foot up, give her space to breathe, turn your fabric around, put your presser foot down, and continue sewing. This is just easy easier. In case you want to do different stitches, honestly, I don't see why you'd want that, but in case you do, just go stopping and starting, and as you can see, that is more cumbersome. So just do one continuous stitch. It will make your life easier. Everyone will be happy because it'll be a family. There will be no one coming in between the stitches, and that's what you need right now. We need to be united so that we can fight for the good cause and make sure everyone's being accounted for and we're all being protected. Okay, so once I was done doing my zigzag stitch, my fabric was now joined together, and now it's time to turn her the right way out, because you cannot wear this with the wrong side of the fabric out unless that's your style. In that case, I'm not gonna judge you. You do you. To make sure the tabs are turned the right way out properly, I did use my scissors to poke out the bits, the corner bits, and you can do this with your hand. You can use scissors. I snipped off the corners, by the way, on the inside. That way that fabric wouldn't bulk up and make my corners bulky. So once you've pushed it through, you've made sure the fabric fits right in, you will have your beautiful milkmaid piece. Ruche her out if she needs to be ruched out. Make sure everyone is in their right place, and as you can see, our milkmaid kind of effect is starting to come together. So now we need to ruche up the bottom bit. So I took my front piece of fabric, and as you can see, there's quite a difference between the two. So we need to ruche the top bit so that she fits right into the front bit perfectly. So I just measured out an elastic that was the length of my front bit. I cut off a bit of excess because I realized when you're pulling the elastic, you need the room to just be able to do that freely. So the side where I joined the two rectangles together, I decided would be the inside of my ruched part. And now I'm just taking that bit of elastic and pinning it from end to end. So you're going to pin this on the wrong side of the fabric because you want to sew the elastic on the wrong side of your fabric. So moving on to the sewing machine, we're going to do the same thing we did with the top bit. You're just going to stretch the elastic. That way she gathers the fabric nicely, and you will have that ruched effect under your boobs as well, which is quite cute. So as you can see, having excess elastic allows you to really stretch your elastic without stressing about the length being insufficient. So once everything was nice and ruched up, it's now time to join your ruched bit to your front bit. So I'm just aligning the two together. Wrong sides are up because you need to sew on the wrong side of the fabric. So I'm just joining the top bit to the front bit, and I took my time with this, making sure everyone was matching up nicely. You don't want to end up with a mismatch. You want this couple to stay together forever. So make sure they're getting to really know each other and they're the perfect fit. So you're going to sew all along the pinned area to join the two pieces together, and I made sure to sew on top of the elastic, not really on top, in front of the elastic. So the elastic bit is going to be under my stitching, and that's because I didn't want her interfering with my life and messing up the process. I did a zigzag stitch, by the way, obviously because my fabric is stretchy, and I did this from end to end, and once that was done, my pieces were attached together and they were beautiful and they were flourishing, and I was happy for them. They were going to be married forever. So now I'm just measuring the length of my top bit. It was 14.5 inches. I then took my waist measurement and subtracted that to get 12.5 inches. So you need your back piece to be 12.5 inches. So I had to take out 2 inches, and I'm doing this by taking off an inch on either side. Remember, we want this to snatch us up. So to do that, this dress has to fit us like a glove. So eventually my back piece ended up being 12.5 inches wide, which is exactly what we need. So I made sure to connect the dots using a line. That way it would be easier for me to cut. And when it came to the waist, I made sure to snatch her up. Remember, the goal is to look like we work out, okay? Even if we take 10 donuts a day, that is none of people's businesses. We need to make sure we look snatched. So I cut off the excess bit of fabric on both sides, and eventually I ended up with a piece that was exactly right. She was snatched at the waist, and I loved that. And now I had to straighten out the top because, as I said, sometimes I cut like I'm not actually human, so I have to straighten things out a bit. And now I'm going to hem the top, and I did this by just basically folding in the fabric once and doing a zigzag stitch along the top bit. So now our back piece is ready to attach to our front bit, and I'm putting the two pieces right sides together, and as you can see, the 2 inches now come into play. The back piece had to be slightly longer than the front piece, that way she would nicely attach and everything would be nice and even. So I'm just pinning the fabrics together just to to make sure they're happy for each other and they're ready to commit. And I pinned along both sides, so make sure you repeat on both sides. And once both sides are pinned, you're going to sew a zigzag stitch along the sides to close up your dress. That way you have a nice and complete dress. Unless you don't want that, I'm not judging you. It's your life, baby girl. You do you. So at the sewing machine, I just did a zigzag stitch, nothing fancy. Make sure you take out the pins as you sew, because the pins are the devil. They will break your needle and you'll be left crying alone, single, depressed. You don't want that. So make sure you take out your pins and sew a zigzag stitch all along both sides, obviously, to close up your dress. And once that's done, you technically have a dress. So now the last and final thing you need to do is to attach the straps to the back. Unless you want a halter kind of effect, which is totally fine, you can tie this around your neck, but I wanted the straps to go to the back, so I'm measuring 3 inches from the side, and this is where my straps will go. I made sure to mark out my areas that the straps would attach to, and then I'm just pinning this to the back bit, and I made sure these straps fit just right. So you're going to sew a zigzag stitch along those points to attach the straps to your dress. That way everything is nice and beautiful. So this is super easy to do. Moving on to the sewing machine, I just did a basic zigzag stitch and I just back stitched a few times, went forward a few times, and after this was done, my strap was super secure and she wasn't going anywhere. I made sure to cut off the excess strap. I didn't need her, and once that was done, I had my dress. She looks beautiful and fabulous, and she looks a bit flared here, but when I wore her, she wasn't as flared, but it's okay, baby girl. We'll work with her as is. She's still beautiful and I love her. She is gorgeous. I really love how this dress turned out, and it was super simple to make, just a bit time consuming with all the ruching and attaching and maths. So I hope it didn't exactly overwhelm you. I promise you it's super simple to do. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I hope you're going to be trying to make this dress, because let's face it, you have nothing else to do. So take your sewing machine and make sure you whip up a fabulous dress that you're going to show up in after quarantine is over. In case you do try this DIY, make sure you send me a picture on Instagram or tag me, and I always make sure to reply and check them out, because you guys are amazing and I wouldn't be here without you. So thank you for everything. Having said that, I really hope you have a fabulous week ahead and that everything works out, and I really hope that this year and basically this month and everything, with everything that's happening, I hope this is going to be the start of change. I hope us Black people are going to get better treatment moving forward. I really hope things do change. I'm choosing to have faith and believe that there's good in everyone and that we do have a good future ahead. So I hope you can contribute to that. I'm doing my part, and let's just make ourselves aware and be kind to one another, because honestly, you wouldn't treat people you love in a bad way. So let's all love each other, and I know it sounds cliche, but let's all treat each other like family despite the color of our skin. If you're Black, if you're white, it doesn't matter. We are all human beings, and we should always strive to make sure that that's the message that's coming across. Like, we love each other and we'll protect each other and we'll fight for each other. And I hope moving forward there's reforms and that Black people won't die just like flies, basically. So I really hope moving forward there's a change, and this change is permanent. And yeah, I just had to speak about it because obviously I am Black, and yeah, it breaks my heart that we are being killed off, but I hope there will be change, and I have faith there will be change. Anyway, guys, stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.